I
That
feel confident that we're going to have a great season next year. We're going to compete for ACC championship. We're going to compete for a college football playoff spot. We too much progress to slow it down. That's how college football works. If any people that's been around college football a long time, we all know it goes in cycles. Teams that's been on the top before, they find their way back to the top. Our formula's working. Our guys are buying in. We're putting in the work. Our conference is set up for us to be successful. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. We
And I
hit
think
success
one
and I was there at the right time. Think about it. We hit success at the right time. In 3 years, Jimbo had a championship. In 3 years. There's no reason why Coach Norvell is building it, except he's building it the right way. He's doing it with guys with academically, academic All-Americans are on, scholars are on the wall inside the Moore Center. I've never seen that many football guys academically scholared. They're graduating almost 2 semesters early, a year early, and then they're continuously staying and playing and getting their second degrees. That's how you build a program. Coach Storm, bigger, stronger, faster, dedicated to the weight room, dedicated to eating right. That's how you build a program. Coach Norvell's doing it the right way. Our time is coming. We're going to have a great season, a great summer. Bar injury this offseason, keep these guys healthy. But I'm confident in what we've shown. I'm very confident.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spear presented by No Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, a.k.a. E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spear presented by No Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear, presented by No Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother.
What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by No Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. FSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by NoelGamey.com. We are here live on a fantastic and wonderful Wednesday evening following a wild and massive week for Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles after they ended their spring showcase on Saturday afternoon. We've got a lot to talk about, along with some commits. We've got transfer portal. We've got some attrition on Florida State's roster. It's a variety of everything tonight, along with some basketball stuff, too. A very busy Florida State athletics weekend overall for both football and basketball, those programs. But with us this evening, this is the best part. I've been looking forward to having this guy back on with us for a long while. Our former co-host of Hear the Spear, former 2013 national champion, and should we say, assistant coach now after coaching the Seminole Showcase with PJ Williams. What up, Los? How we doing, baby?
I appreciate you guys having me back, man. Like Dustin called it earlier, a family reunion. You know what I'm saying? Just a little family reunion, man. A great weekend. Good seeing PJ. Great meeting Mr. Ward in person. Like, got to shake his hand for the first time ever.
Wow.
We talked for like 45 straight minutes before we met with Coach Norvell before the spring game. So that was a really unique opportunity. But it was awesome, man. So thank you guys for having me back.
Always, man. It was a really fun weekend. I was traveling back up and got to see D-Lou. Got to see our guy Tommy and the rest of some of the guys on the beat. So I just love being back in the stadium also, because we're not going to be there for a good long while. Florida State doesn't open their season there. They go into Orlando to play LSU. So it's going to be a minute before we get back in the Doug, but just felt good. And I'll be honest with you guys, we were a little harsh on it, bashing it, saying it's a little boring. It's a practice on steroids, which it is, but there was a lot of good takeaways and a lot more entertaining than the previous years. So got to give credit there to Mike. So guys, let's jump right into it. Let's start off with this spring showcase. What were y'all's overall thoughts of it? And Lois, I'll start with you because you were down there on the field. And we'll get into your coaching side of things, but you were able to, like you said, meet around with Mike. You got to be on the sideline, be around some of those players. I just want to hear your overall thoughts on the day.
I got to go to practice the week before on a Thursday. It's just energetic. They're focused, attention to detail, and very situational football. I was there, and guys that played at Florida State before me, former players, prior to my playing, were like, wow, he's doing special teams in the middle of practice. That's so crazy. That's so situational. Like, coaches aren't doing that. It's transitioning a football player's head from, a third down red zone situation into emergency field goal, or to emergency punt, or to being backed up and having a special team situation, to covering kicks. He's always transitioning into the next phase, because it does happen like that. And football is a blink of an eye type of game. Situation goes up and down. The momentum goes up and down. So he does a great job of, lasering in on focus and situational football, which transitions into wins. Controlling the football, line of scrimmage, controlling the clock, scoring the ball when you first have the first possession, and scoring it when you come out the tunnel. That's very, very important. And when you practice that nonstop, your guys go out there and execute at a high level.
I would say the first thing that popped out to me on Saturday was really the play of Kentron Poitier and also Kalen DeLoach. And I'll just start with D'Lo, making a great read. And, really seeing the ball come out of Jordan Travis's hands before he even threw it, getting there for an interception that would have been a pick six in a game. Then later on, a fourth down scenario, getting with Rodney Hill in space, forcing the fumble, and then also recovering it, and what would have been another defensive touchdown. So, a really impressive outing for him that kind of showed the spring he put in going into his final season of college eligibility. And then Kentron, I think we've got to call him the king of the spring. Really consistent throughout the entirety of the practice period, and seems to be on the verge of a breakout campaign for FSU in 2023. And just showed that off on Saturday. 4 catches north of 80 yards, had that touchdown, had that freakish, ridiculous one-handed catch on the sidelines. 2 guys for Florida State really showing out.
It was a busy. I don't know if you got to see any of it, VZ. I'm sure you saw some of the highlights, but yeah, Kentron Poitier, a guy that we talked about all throughout spring camp, making those plays. And the one thing that was hurting him was just staying healthy. And if you can have a healthy Tron, then it's humongous. It's major, and it shows. He was one of the most consistent guys through camp. He would make plays in the red zone. He also did it in games last year. It's just if he could go week by week and be able to play, that was his biggest downfall for him. But he really did solidify himself. Talked about it in our preview. I said I think Tron has the chance, will be a starter in 2023, and I think he solidified that spot, which is something that Florida State had some question marks going into the spring. You had to figure out, what do you do now with Ontario Wilson, a pokey, a guy that was reliable, that helped your offense a ton, make explosive plays. How would you replace him, or at least have another talent onto that starting unit? But I think Tron now fits that, and that takes care of it. Still a lot of question marks, and we're going to evaluate the next couple podcasts of some things that need to be done. We got a lot of new stuff to go through this week, but there's going to be a lot of conversation about depth and everything. But that wide receiver room is still that helps a ton with Tron making those plays. And I think Kalen DeLoach looked phenomenal. He did. Him and I think the linebackers as a whole really impressed me in coverage. That's something that would probably be one of their weaknesses the last couple of years. But I thought Lundy, I know there was one grab. I forget who I think he deflected one far. It was a pretty good route too, ran by the offensive player, but Lundy was there in really tight coverage. And that's something that Lundy before a year or two ago just wasn't, he wouldn't be in the stride with them. So him working on his body and everything helped a ton. But yeah, like you said, D'Lo, those two stood out a ton, and it's just great to see that, definitely specifically with Tron. He's going to have to be a pivotal player for Florida State's offense in 2023.
It's good to see him build on the finish he had last season, because he had a couple of really nice plays in the last few games of last season. It's built on it in spring, and that one-handed catch in the spring game up the sideline, Duffy kind of overthrew him just a little bit, but it's just a phenomenal catch. And EJ Manuel talks about it on the broadcast, just how much he's been working on his route running, trying to develop into a more overall consistent receiver. And if he could continue looking like he did in the spring showcase, it's going to be a very dangerous wide receiver unit going forward.
And I guess just to finish off with Tron, to me, it's really the development and the strides that he's made throughout his career at Florida State. A guy who's going in to year 4, and Mike Norvell actually talked about it after the showcase. He only played 1 year of high school football during his prep career. So, I mean, he was pretty raw coming into Florida State and has consistently continued to grow. Last year, second on the team in yards per reception, over 20 yards a catch. So, I mean, really showing that potential. And I think now it's coming into the overall consistency of being a wide receiver. And we're also seeing him take some really big steps as far as blocking. And that's one thing that Mike Norvell, Ron Dugans, and Florida State really covet in that offense. The wide receivers, if you're going to be out there on the field, you've got to be able to block.
Los, this running back room, I know you were close there on the sidelines, so you got a nice view of them. But Trey Benson, didn't seem like a full on go. Got a couple reps here and there, but it was really heavily on the shoulders of CJ Campbell, Rodney Hill. You also had some Lawrence Toafili, Baby 9 with a little bit extra explosiveness. I was like, oh, okay. We see it in practice, but you see it on the game field, which is nice. But what do you think about that running back room? Because you lost Trayshawn Ward, and I think, Los, whenever we talked about Ward, we're all fans of Trayshawn Ward and his abilities and what he brought to that offense the last couple of years for Florida State. So that was something that they had to find an answer for this spring and moving forward, because Holmes couldn't play, wasn't available on Saturday. What do you think just overall running back room?
That room is dangerous. It's multiple. It's so multiple. Just after the game, me, Coach Johnson, the running backs, Dexter Carter, a Florida State great, and James were just sitting there talking to them, and we were just describing them like got goosebumps. Like, everybody's needed in this room. There's no one man show in this room. There's not going to be a Cam Akers in that room. Toafili's the most versatile. Like, he does everything. He's catching balls. He's laying off of people, scoring touchdowns away in Clemson. That's big. You got a home run hitter and a power back, something like James Wilder and, and Benson. And then CJ and Holmes are a lot like Devontae. They're shifty. They're in and out the cuts. They're hitting the power. They're hitting the inside zone. They're breaking more than one tackle, making the first man miss. They're gaining those tough yards. And then you got Hill. You got 2-9. And you don't want to let him get the edge because he's out of there. And so with everybody touching the ball, I would say lean on that run game. I'd be very, very unselfish in that room. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if everybody wants to get drafted, everybody has to touch the ball. If I want to get drafted and I'm a running back, I want the other guys to touch the ball because I don't need 20-plus carries anymore. Look at every team in NFL. They're looking for 2 backs. They're looking for guys to do multiple things. And you're a team that I don't have to do everything. And so when I go out to practice, hey, man, I want you to get that so I can get this. I want you to run this so I can run that. And we kind of explained that to him. I mean, I didn't get 20 carries my junior year. We had Devontae. We had James. There was no way. Vontae stopped getting 20 carries a game almost. When we all was getting – I mean, you had 3 backs over 500, 3 backs all over almost 10 touchdowns. Like, that's insane. That's kind of backfield we have now. And backs want to come be a part of that. Holmes transferred to come be a part of that. I mean, I miss Ward. I love Ward. But Ward knew what was coming to the backfield. Like, I mean, I would too if I was in that situation. Getting a scholarship, earning a scholarship, and becoming a starter, then the guy that's transferred in is a home run hitter. And then he becomes a real home run hitter during the season. So it wasn't like we were missing. It was obvious what was going to take place. I just want these guys to understand that everybody is needed. Everybody is wanted. Everybody can eat. You just got to be okay with everybody else eating.
Yeah, it's just what Mike Norvell has been doing ever since Memphis. I mean, the guy just produces quality running back rooms from top to bottom. And I mean, like Lo said, there's legitimately 5 guys in Florida State's running back room. I mean, every single one of them are quality football players, and this competition throughout the spring has been really exciting to watch. It's going to be even better in the fall when it starts getting down to the nitty-gritty and guys are starting to fight for upcoming playing time against LSU and, throughout that 2023 season. It's going to be exciting because, like Lo said, we saw what Benson's done. Lawrence Toafili has been extremely consistent throughout his career, impacting things on the ground and through the air. Rodney Hill seems like that guy who's primed to break out. I mean, right there alongside Kentron with someone who I was extremely impressed with throughout the spring. I mean, we saw him doing it in practice last year too, and then you've got the guys, Kaiseah Holmes and CJ, who are walk-ons, but I mean, they are sitting there making plays in practice every single day, and especially CJ coming on late during the spring. So I think you've got to be really excited for what you've got in that backfield. And I mean, you're going to ride those guys out throughout the 2023 season. I think at some point you could see all 5 of them contribute.
I love me some CJ Campbell. I'm not going to lie.
He was good
I
Saturday.
like that kid. Yep.
He had some moments Saturday.
He knows
good.
Once this backfield learns their identity and they truly grasp, this is my role, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to excel at, and this is how we're going to win games because I'm just going to do this right here. The sky's the limit. Everybody can get touchdowns. Everybody's rushing yards because once you start excelling at what you're great at, it opens up everybody else to do what they're good at. You know what I'm saying? I'm not extending myself to do things I'm not good at because coach can't trust this guy to do this, this, and this. Like, no, I'm in my lane. Like, I knew when Dalvin came into Florida State what time it was. Los was not an idiot. I wasn't. We recruited one of the best backs in the country. We got one of the best backs in the country. I was not recruited to be a running back. I was being coached and learning how to play a position. So I knew at some point he was going to either match me or surpass me. Naturally, it happened. But I knew for me to be successful, I needed him. Now, I mean, I had 22 touchdowns in 2 seasons. Nobody's done that. And that not coming in as a running back. So I knew I needed Dalvin. And Dalvin, I benefited from him. He benefited from me. He didn't take a pounding. He didn't have to. He didn't have to run inside zone or power or trap. He didn't have to because I would do it for him. I didn't have to run screens, a tall sweep, outside zone. He did it for me. But we complimented each other, and I appreciated it. Like, it's been one of the best things. I benefited from that more than anything ever, having a complimentary back and a teammate that understood. I understood his role. He understood my role, and we respected it, and we played off of it.
I think this is great we're having you on here, Los, because you actually have a unique perspective from that time, and that's what Florida State's going into this year. And I mean, that's how Mike Norvell's stable is. But you bring a good perspective of that because this room is going to be shared among guys that have different traits and different talents like you had in your room, and Trey Benson a little bit kind of like in the wilder scheme of things. Like you were saying with Devontae Freeman, going to a few of the other backs on the current roster for Florida State. Let's go to quarterbacks here and go through Jordan Travis, Tate Rodemaker, AJ Duffy and Brock Glenn. Starting with Jordan Travis, looking sharp, man. I know Kalen DeLoach made a nice play to grab that interception, but overall, things looked smooth. It's just what we were seeing all throughout the spring. Sharp, making plays, and that beautiful toss was very nice in the corner of the end zone. I think, that's just not a shocker there for Jordan. And I'm glad that he was able to get through there and make a few plays and then get off the field. Don't need to see him out there for too much longer because you do need to have some answers and some stuff to look at from Duffy, Rodemaker, but mainly Duffy. And I wanted to see a little bit of Brock Glenn. What were y'all's overall thoughts on the room?
Yeah, I thought you saw exactly what you wanted to see out of Jordan. Obviously, he had that perfect throw to Kentron that ended up going for a touchdown. I mean, other than that, get him out of the game. Like you said, let's get a look at these other 3 guys. It wasn't a perfect outing for, Tate Rodemaker, but I do think when you compare this performance to maybe what we've seen in the past, he's definitely been making strides year to year. AJ Duffy, through the interception, true freshman Quindarius Jones coming in there on the sideline to pick that one off. A great play by him. But, I mean, other than that, a solid day overall. Still some inconsistencies that he wants to clean up moving forward into fall camp. And then Brock Glenn, definitely looked like a true freshman early on, but settled in for a couple nice moments down there towards the latter end of the spring showcase. So, I mean, you saw some signs from all 3 of them. It's going to be interesting to see how this competition continues into fall camp. Obviously, Rodemaker and Duffy trying to fight for that number 2 job, and Brock Glenn and they're competing as well.
Yeah, Glenn had a couple really nice throws. He had that one up the seam to Morlock, and then he had that back shoulder to Jacobs late in the game that Jacobs sprung loose. What I was surprised about with Duffy was his ability to escape the pocket. I know he's shown it in the past, but to see it in the spring game just kind of opened my eyes up to him a little bit more as a player for maybe what they can use for him in the future.
Yeah,
I think everybody played solid.
Go ahead.
I think it was a solid outing as a quarterback room. You got to see athleticism out of Duffy, escaping the pocket, getting out the pocket, trying to reach for the first downs, knowing where the sticks are. I had Brock at my part of the showcase, so it was nice seeing him translate. I ran a little no huddle also in there, speeding up, getting the call, getting the guys to the line of scrimmage. And also you want to see the mistakes. Like I want to see Travis throw a pick. Why? Because I want to see our defense make a play because I know he's been working to be on point. So if his receiver's on point, he's on point, and that defender throws a pick, and he throws a pick, that means that everybody's doing the right thing. That means we're moving in the right direction. That just happened to be a bam bam play, you know. So people talk about the pick, and the pick was perfect because I mean Ford's on the defense reading the right keys. He's playing the right things. I mean Travis read the right read and tried to fit the ball into a good window. Ford just made a good play, and those things are something that you want to see holistically. I think it was great getting them in and out, getting them in, him scoring, getting them out the game, getting the young guys some reps. I like Tate's confidence. He's playing with confidence, and that's something that we haven't seen. You know, him coming in and playing against Louisville, that was a lot of confidence. Throwing the ball deep to Johnny, you know, making those big time plays and coming and winning that game for us like that. We seen that this spring game. Stepping up in the pocket, throwing the ball downfield, not being afraid to make plays. And that's something that's going to help him sit in that second seat as our second. But Duffy's athleticism again, him throwing good balls, putting the ball in position that 88 can make that one-handed catch. Things like that. That's a shot he took, Let my guy go make a play. Those things you also want to see in your young quarterback. But like you said, Brock did play like a freshman. Happy feet, deer in the headlights. But it was exciting to see him out there and compete. That's something that you also want to see. You don't want to see a freshman, not compete because guest coaches are going to be calling plays or whatnot. It's still game-like reps. You want to play as fast as you can. You want to read the reads and get the ball distributed to your guys. Make sure the handoffs are crisp. Make sure guys are lined up, But like I said, it was great for me. From my perspective, it was nice, good quarterback play. 13, J. Trav, he commanded the offense. He ran it smooth. He escaped the pocket, pointed down. He was down, really taking care of the football team and himself at the same time. So it's really, really awesome to see.
We get him back on here full time. You sent over a contract after the show? Or?
Yeah, we got to do. He's a busy man. I'm gonna try to talk him into. We got to do at least season, maybe once a month, something like that. Always phenomenal insight. I just finished off in the quarterback room. I think the theme for Mike Norvell is respond to your mistakes or respond to adversity, like anything that goes wrong, respond to it. And I like Brock, having a slow start to it, having a slow start overall, and then slowly climbing back and making those plays and making that drive and connecting with Dre. Then you connect with Hakeem for the touchdown. That's just what I think Mike Norvell just loves to see. He kills for that, and it was good to see from Glenn. I think I was expecting more out of Duffy. That was someone that I was one of the top guys I wanted to see from this. And I know this is a practice, so I'm not taking this to where, oh my God, everything's fallen. But I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen anything change that much. I mean, there's a few things here and there, D-Lou, that we'll see at practices, but and I know it's a spring showcase, it is what it is, but I don't think there's a QB2 battle. It's Jay Trav and there's Tate Rodemaker, and then I think there's a QB3 battle. I mean, later on you can talk about that in fall camp, but overall just not okay. I just don't see much growth, and I've seen the determination and the maturity happen there and the focus, and we've heard great things from all of the assistant coaches on it, but I'm just not seeing that develop onto the field as much. And that's just
question, Logan.
somewhat I don't know.
Here we go. I haven't heard that in a while.
Oh, now you're gonna ask me the questions.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
So with the hand that's being dealt, okay, Rodemaker's what year?
He's going into year 4.
Year 4. So he's a redshirt junior this year, right?
Yep.
Duffy's a redshirt what?
Freshman.
Who's transferring if they don't get the 2 spot?
I don't think Rodemaker's ever going to transfer from Florida State. I don't see that happening. I think he's fine kind of where he's at. And I think we've hit the Rodemaker ceiling for sure. Like,
you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've seen.
I don't think that's fair to say. He hasn't had enough opportunity. We've had one quarterback for how long? And I'm not knocking 13 because he's deserved it from beginning to end, from running around like Russell Wilson to standing in the pocket, taking shots and throwing touchdowns in New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? So he's earned every bit of respect that he deserves it all. But he's never got a chance to touch the field or play consistently.
I love what I saw out of Louisville.
That's one.
That was
game.
Big. I just don't think. Yeah, but I don't think.
Okay, Logan. We went
at least going into 2024.
We went from EJ Manuel to a spring showcase between Trickett and Jameis to Jameis Winston and win a national championship.
Coker. Great
Coker
battle
never
there.
got a shot. Coker went to Bama and won a championship, bro.
Now, Coker I think, is different levels. I think there's different levels there between Rodemaker and Coker.
Time out.
Because we were hearing great things.
I love Coker. Coker wasn't going into Louisville like Tate and beating Louisville. He wasn't doing that.
For real?
He wasn't doing that. He wasn't. You believe he was?
He won himself a national championship going against SEC defenses. I don't see. Not like this is like we're sending a segment on Rodemaker here. But I think we've hit the talent. Like, we know what we're going to get out of Rodemaker. That Louisville game was gigantic
in 2013 with Rodemaker.
I would
with the talent.
With the talent,
that helps a lot. But you're not winning a national championship now. I don't think so. No. What they give you on the sideline, Los?
I think we could.
You down there.
I think we could.
What they put in that Powerade, Los?
No, because where I'm sitting is that we want guys to play now, right? We want guys to come in and be able to do it now. How long have we had Jay Trav to reach this point in his ability that he's progressed this much, right? I'm not down in 13, but how much progression has he had over the years? How much? How many years has he been in college football to get this good, to give him this much credit?
Only one more than Rodemaker.
With game experience, though, D-Lou. Stop. I'm not. No, with game experience,
if we're talking 2024, then that's a whole different situation because this is already locked for 23. But I don't think there's.
You got to see where I'm coming from. But it's just I'm talking about pure game experience. If Dan goes out there and gets game experience and takes the same lumps that Jay Trav takes, athletically, he's not the same, but I still think he's still producing somewhat same success with the same roster. He just lacks game experience.
My whole thing was about Duffy there. Like I said, I wanted Duffy. I wanted Duffy.
I'm just not gonna
I wanted Duffy to be pushing Rodemaker. Like that's how Rodemaker was going to get better if Duffy was going to be on his heels. But after the spring showcase and just going through camp and such, I don't think that's the case. I don't think Duffy is on Rodemaker's heels to push him. And luckily, Jordan Travis was able to stay fully healthy last year. That was great. But then you just never know. But I want Duffy to be pushing. I want a QB2 battle. That's what Atkins talked about after the game. He would be excited for a QB2 battle, but I think they kind of know, okay, Duffy's not there yet to where you're going to put him out at Louisville over Rodemaker. And at the time, though, you thought that was going to happen. But the one thing we saw growth-wise from Rodemaker was respond. He threw in bad interception. He comes back in the second half. He's able to lead Florida State to a victory on the road Friday night. Like that was humongous for this program overall. And Rodemaker was the one that was the general on the field doing that. But I need him to push. I need him to push Rodemaker. I don't know if anybody's transferring, but I also don't think Rodemaker's transferring. I don't think that it would have to be. On Duffy's side.
The way you explain it, that's understandable. I see what you're saying. I agree, though. After that, I agree. I see what you're saying. He's been here a while. He's comfortable in Tallahassee. He's where you know what I'm saying. He's where he's gonna be, and he's gonna graduate and finish graduating, and maybe get another degree from here before he gets out of here. So I get what you're saying, though. That's understandable.
I think a legit QB2 battle would be huge for Florida State because obviously, we've talked about it. It's going to take something significant to unseat Rodemaker from being Jordan Travis's primary backup. I mean, he's already proved it. We talked about Louisville and everything. He's been here in the system for a prolonged period of time. So, I mean, you've got to feel very comfortable, if something happens and he has to come into that game, you feel comfortable with what he can provide you. But behind him, it is fair to say, you want AJ Duffy to be stepping up and at least making a little bit of a challenge to unseat Rodemaker going into his second year. I mean, you're still seeing the flashes, but really it comes down to this time, the day-to-day consistency. And I mean, it's just not there yet for Duffy, a guy who is a little bit raw coming in, is going to take some refinement. And I mean, the same thing with Brock Glenn, who's entering his first year at Florida State, a guy who shouldn't have even graduated high school yet. So, still very early in his career, but just a quarterback competition would be good for the future of Florida State, because what you have in Jordan Travis. He's going to be here in 2023. But after that, you're looking at the 2024 season that you're going to be starting on the road in another country, facing Georgia Tech over there in Ireland with a new starting quarterback for the first time in, 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's going to be a huge moment for Florida State and a national stage. So I think a quarterback competition and just these guys continuing to push each other throughout the fall is good for the future of the program.
And what are you laughing at?
We can't.
Dog, it's how D-Lou be putting it. D-Lou said Florida State will be starting a whole new quarterback in 2024 overseas in Ireland. It's going down. Damn.
I feel like the extra details.
But I get what you're saying.
Go ahead, DBZ.
I mean, that's why I get it, man. I sit from a very different perspective, and that's why I love being on with you guys. I love and I respect you guys' opinions, man. I'm okay with saying I'm corrected. But that is a very good point. It is pivotal. We do need a backup quarterback battle. We do need somebody on the hot seat. We do need people competing for reps in the second and third and in the fourth quarter of games this year, because our captain, our leader, is going to be gone after this season. Mm-hmm. Who's gonna be taking that seat? And that's something, honestly, I haven't even thought about for a while. You're so comfortable with your quarterback and your leader. You know who it's going to be. You really don't take the time to think about, wow, like, who's going to be our guy playing overseas in a new country, like in a brand like
Dustin. Dustin's got the storylines ready, movie scripts ready to go. Hollywood, where are we at?
That's big.
Go ahead, VZ. You're going to say something.
I said we can't put a cap on these guys' ceilings, though. You kind of talked about earlier where you felt like this is the most we're going to see of Tate. If we go just, a year and a half ago at the end of the 2021 season with Jordan Travis battling Mackenzie Milton, no one thought he'd be a Heisman candidate as we sit today. If you go back to now, you can't put a cap on these guys right now. You got to let these guys grow and develop and see how they learn and grow under Norvell. Because clearly we've seen it with one guy. There's no reason it can't happen with the rest of the guys on this roster.
Mm-hmm. Tony Tokarz has done a great job in that room. I give him a ton of credit coming in and getting this gig with Mike Norvell, and these guys, when they're needed, they do well. I need a QB2 battle for fall camp. I just don't know if that's there yet. Mm-hmm. What else defensively for you guys? Because we talked a ton about offense, but just to finish off the spring showcase, defensive line. What was it like, Low, seeing Jared Verse? And it seemed like you got the new duo with Peyton. Peyton looked great, but Verse, man, I mean, it kind of got to the point where it was unfair off the edge a little bit. But first takeaways from that defense.
He's a different kind of talent. He wants to improve every day. And he wants the guy next to him to be better than him. And if he's not trying to be better than him, he's trying to push the guy to be better than him. He wants everybody to be like, oh, I know that guy or that guy. He said it in his interview. He wants to set a new standard. And that's something that we haven't had in a long time. You've had guys come in and there be them guys, like self guys. And it's not to knock. Every school goes through that phase. And on our defensive side of the ball, we got to a very self point. He wants to bring back us, the standard, our defense, that name, that brand. When you see FSU, you talk about defense, and that was pretty cool. 19, Edmond, he was nice to me. I like watching him rush off the edge. He was really, really interesting to watch.
Coach was nice, not allowing him. That was not nice of Coach not giving him that sack. He had a sack there on Rodemaker's throw, but. I like Gilbert.
He's smooth. He is smooth. Also 54 had a nice couple plays. Our freshman, 45, he had a nice couple plays. Watching him on the edge. Who else? I'm going by numbers here. 37, corner, played on the right side, home side, sideline. He played smooth. He blitzed really well. And he played smooth.
Walk on.
I'm bad with names, but I'm great with numbers. But he played smooth. And then running to the football, Lundy, watching his body change. Yep. I got to see him up close and personal, his body transformation. He is solid, a lot slimmer, moving faster. Between him and Ford running the side on the sideline, it's going to be pretty hard for people. You know what I'm saying? They got big hogs in front of them. Love it, moving well in front of him. 96, he's a young kid, redshirt freshman. Yep. Nasty off the edge. He's only going to get bigger, stronger, and faster. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So I was very, very impressed, man. Coach Fuller is a great defensive mind. I told him, like, I love the interception. He was like, "I love the what?" He says, "Mission takeaway around here, son." My bad. I apologize.
Get it right.
You know,
get it right.
He's setting a tone, and that's something that I love, man. Seeing Dent out there was nice. It was nice seeing him in a new number, getting comfortable, getting reps. You know, getting sticking his nose in there. It was cool, man. Just being down there again and seeing the intensity. That was it for me on the defensive side of the ball. They're listening to the call, their communication, they're understanding the alignment, the assignments, and then attacking, not being scared to attack. That was the exciting part for me. No, just the experience. You can smell them hunting blood on the defensive side. It was, man. It was. Yeah. I can really, really sense that. They wanted to play. They were waiting for contact. They were waiting to go compete. They were waiting for a crowd. I mean, they've been busting their behinds all spring for that moment. You can tell that defense wanted to prove something. The turnovers, the attacking the football. They wanted to show what they had been working on all spring, and they did it very well. They presented very well.
Now, did they have you calling any plays on the defensive side of the ball, or was that
zero?
PJ?
Zero. That was all PJ. That was all P.
Oh, PJ, that's awesome. Yeah, I know one thing that stood out to me was Bishop Thomas on the outside. I was not expecting that a ton. I'll be honest with you.
Doing a little bit of cross training.
Yeah, and I kind of liked it. I would have never thought I would like it, but you know, Florida State trying to build maybe some depth there on the outside, testing a few things. Why not? And do it on the side. I thought that was pretty unique, and I thought Ontavious Woody was pretty disruptive.
20.
Azarek.
I like 20.
Yep, AT.
I like him. Hey, I like him. He's shaped like Jalen Ramsey. He got an attitude, and he don't mind putting his nose and finding out where you live. He does not mind. He'll put his head in there, and I think as he gets that confidence, he just needs to have a little whisper in his ear before the play, like, "Hey, man, you know, like, you can be that guy, so just go be that guy." And I just want to go see him play. You know what I'm saying? I think he can. I really think he can set the tone on the defensive side of the ball and our defensive backfield. I think he can. I think he just has to take a little bit of push, and I think he can set the tone. He can shut down the side of the field if he gets the right mindset and starts playing with that chip on his shoulder. He has the size and speed, just a little attitude. He got the right number on.
And he's been trending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's been trending in the right direction all spring. Yeah. Really impressive. And I got to echo another one of your sentiments. 54, Byron Turner Jr., redshirt sophomore defensive end coming off the edge. He had a pretty impressive outing during the spring showcase. This is a guy who's been limited with injuries during his first 2 years at Florida State, finally getting back healthy for the entirety of the spring camp and showing some real growth ahead of a 2023 season now, where you look at Derek McClendon is gone from this roster. I mean, they're really going to need Turner and as well as Gilbert Edmond to step up in that four-man rotation behind Jared Verse and Patrick Payton off the edge. But back-to-back sacks on Saturday for Byron Turner Jr. on Brock Glenn. It looked like Glenn couldn't get rid of the ball quick enough. And I mean, man, just the explosion off the edge on the first one. I think the second one, he was able to pretty much take his offensive tackle into the backfield before getting off for another sack. So a nice outing for him ahead of, you know, I've said it a couple times, but a really crucial fall camp.
I thought all the edge rushers looked good, honestly. You know, there was a comment about Dante Anderson. He had a couple of nice moments in the game. We just talked about Edmond. Verse had some nice bursts in the few plays he had. The pass rush is looking scary, and we haven't even really talked about the defensive tackles because it's hard to show much with the defensive tackles in a spring game. They're going to show some in fall. I can feel it, and that front four is going to be scary for opposing offenses.
Mm-hmm. To your credit, I don't think Fabian Lovett, he was dressed out on Saturday, but I'm not sure if he played a snap.
There was a few guys, yeah, and some guy like Trey Benson who was out there for a little bit, but no reason to.
Guys, you're not really. You don't need to throw out there and worry about them in a game where you can use a lot of time for younger guys and focus on growth, and that's what I think Florida State did.
Mm-hmm.
To be at that kind of point is a good position to be.
Very
in.
nice, isn't it?
Like that's a very good spot to be in, because you got starters out there playing all day. That's a problem. Like that is though. If you're in the spring and you're having starters play deep into the second half of this game, you're still trying to figure out who's going to be that guy in those positions.
Mm-hmm.
We're having guys. Hey, we know who plays for this position. I want to know who can back him up. I want to know where our depth is coming from. I want to know who we're going to have to red shirt, who's going to transition well into summertime, into fall camp. We're in a very good position. So, no fans, you should be happy. Don't worry about the scoreboard. Think about what's going on around the scoreboard. Guys played well. Guys performed well. We came out injury. No big injuries coming out of the game. And guys are moving forward into getting themselves in position to, have a big season. We got some guys hit the portal. So it's going to open up other opportunities for other guys to make plays. So, I mean, and freshman class coming in is going to be a good one. So, no fans, be excited, man.
Yeah, you mentioned the scoreboard. Don't have to worry about that too much, like how it was in Gainesville. That is for damn sure. Let's talk about. Well, first, I want to get I have like one last question about Spring Showcase. So when I'm talking about these uniforms that got released too on Saturday, Los, what was the vibe on the sideline to you? Are these guys like communicative? Because we see that in practices, but I'm interested to see what the game type feeling. What was it like? Leadership? Because we saw Brock Glenn his first day. He's over here picking up some of the new transfer offensive linemen like Jeremiah Byers after a tough workout. He's over here leading them, which was really great to see, and that's going to translate and build a lot of respect onto the field. But what was it like on the sideline overall, around the coaching staff, but maybe more the players?
It was awesome. Like I said, with attention to detail, like they cared about what was going on in the game. Like what was going on, who was subbing in, what was being called. You had guys not in the game, or what was the call, or what were y'all running. Even when me and PJ were calling or Charlie was calling, they were paying attention to what was being called, so I can adjust to it. So I can, so I'm not in the game, so that they're gonna do this. So I'm moving here. Okay, this is the call. Here's the signal. They're making sure that they're always paying attention. They're always ready, because I truly believe that we are in a system where it's next man up. If so many guys making plays, I can't be a guy that's not paying attention. I can't be a guy that's not, not ready. So I got to stay ready. And I think that was the cool part about it. Everybody was engaged. Everybody was cheering each other on. Everybody was dapping each other up. Everybody was making sure that the guy in there, their position segment was, they were rooting for him to do well, to be successful, to grade out well, to hit the big play. And that's kind of what you wanted to feel and see. There's been times, I guarantee you went back at Florida State and guys were more, like I said before, me. And it happens at every university. I'm just happy that we're back to us, that kind of environment. Everybody was locked in, focused on the game, focused on their alignment, assignment, and technique, cheering the next man on. And that was a great feel. It was a home feel, It felt like a game environment down there itself.
I mentioned earlier that I thought Kalen DeLoach and Kentron were two guys that stood out, on their respective sides of the ball. And those are two guys that you've been able to see play before, and, you're familiar with them at Florida State. Going into Saturday, who was a guy that you saw out there for maybe the first time who caught your eye?
Or even the practice, too.
For the first time at practice?
Maybe one of the transfers from the freshman class.
Edmund, 19.
Okay.
His physicality, and I say this loosely, when I eyeball test, what can he do? What made Florida State choose me? And that's the question I always ask. Why Florida State chose him? Let me watch. His physicality, his attention to detail, he's coachable. Yes, coach. I want to be coached. Yes, coach. I want to learn. Yes, coach. And when you have a guy like that, we had a guy like that, Tank Carradine. Tank was huge, super strong, wasn't super fast, but Tank learned moves, how to make his strength to his advantage, because he wasn't overly fast. Edmund does that. He goes out, I worked this move, it didn't work. I'm gonna work it, but I'm gonna add this to it because I did it. Boom, boom. Okay, that worked. he's a student. He's constantly wanting to learn. That's why he really surprised me. I watched him in practice. I want to watch him in the game. Offensively, it was Campbell. Campbell, the way he runs the ball reminds me a lot of Devontae. In and out of the cuts, ping pong ball, boom, 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 bouncing off stuff. The first man's gonna break. He's gonna break that tackle, and make a miss. He don't like being tackled by one man, and that mentality is something I would feed. You know what I'm saying? Once you get him hot, let him stay hot until he goes cold. He'll let you know when he goes cold. He'll tap his helmet, get him out of there. Let's run somebody else. And he really showed that he can carry a load if need be. Because you had Trey not getting a lot of balls. You had Nine with a green jersey on as well. So he kind of had to be the veteran, quote unquote, in the room getting the carries. Who else? I mean, 6, our tight end, a transfer tight end, South Carolina Bell. I liked him. He blocked well on the edge for me, being a more athletic tight end. I see him being like not as big as O'Leary, but flex him out, put him out there and give him a mismatch. I don't see no safety covering him too long. No outside linebacker is going to cover him too long. He played well. I like watching him.
I think Norvell kept him kind of do some basic things on Saturday. Don't need to see everything. No reason to show that.
But he played
whatever
well.
It is, because you don't know how long you're gonna have a Jaheim Bell, but you gotta just let him do a few things.
Defense flew to the ball. Helmets popped off. I mean, you had a running back pop somebody's helmet off. Defense popped somebody's helmet off. Overall, it was what you wanted to see. For me, I can't speak for it, but for me, from going to practice and watching them practice and then going to the showcase, I'm satisfied. I'm ready for summer. Let's go get bigger, stronger, faster. Let's go see LSU in Orlando. Let's go play football. I'm confident that we're going to have a great season next year.
You get everybody riled up, Los. It's April. Getting everybody's riling up.
But you got to understand, like, it's going to happen fast, man. Like, it's April already. We just hit 23. The summer's going to snap. Kids are going to be, like, going to camps, and then all of a sudden we're going to be kicking off, and we're going to be in Orlando. We're going to be in Orlando.
Yep.
I feel confident that we're going to have a great season next year. We're going to compete for an ACC championship. We're going to compete for a college football playoff spot. We're too much progress to slow it down. That's how college football works. If any people that's been around college football a long time, we all know it goes in cycles. Teams that's been on the top before, they find their way back to the top. Our formula's working. Our guys are buying in. We're putting in the work. Our conference is set up for us to be successful. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. We hit success and I was there at the right time. Think about it. We hit success at the right time. In 3 years, Jimbo had a championship. In 3 years. There's no reason why Coach Norvell is building it, except he's building it the right way. He's doing it with guys with academically. You know what I mean? Academic All-Americans are on, scholars are on the wall inside the Moore Center. I've never seen that many football guys academically scholared. They're graduating almost 2 semesters early, a year early. And then they're continuously staying and playing and getting their second degrees. That's how you build a program. Coach Storm, bigger, stronger, faster, dedicated to the weight room, dedicated to eating right. That's how you build a program. Coach Norvell's doing it the right way. Our time is coming. We're going to have a great season, a great summer. Bar injury this offseason, keep these guys healthy. But I'm confident in what we've shown. I'm very confident. I'm not. There's no need to stress. The guys in the portal that transferred, good luck to those guys. I know them personally. Gantz from Polk County, from Kathleen. So, I hope him all the best. I wish you luck. You're getting offers out there. So, y'all pick him up. He's a great guy, great athlete. He can play in the secondary and on the second level. But we're hitting our strides, guys. I truly believe it. Thank y'all for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Hold on, before we let you go though, I gotta get these thoughts on these new uniforms though, because you wore these.
Don't drop the mic just yet.
Yeah. We got the first reaction from a player. I don't think we saw Jameis tweeted something. He approved of them, but what do you think about him? You got to see him on the video board too, and I don't know how close you were on the field, but how are you feeling?
They got him perfect.
Perfecto.
This is the uniform you wear until end of time. It's not too big. It's not too small. It is the perfect tribal label, and it's perfect at the right spots. You know what I'm saying? We never wanted it huge. It's never been huge on the jerseys. It's always been the accent. You know what I'm saying? The subtleness of the tribal, the marker on us. So why have it too big on the shoulder? I think they hit it right. We love the white numbers. We love you know what I'm saying? So I think they did it perfect, man. I would want to wear it. We got the double hip. You know what I'm saying? The logos on the double hips. That's what we wanted. Back in the day, we had that back. You know what I'm saying? So I just, I like it, man. I like it. I think it's subtle, it's perfect, it's traditional, like we've always wanted. You know what I'm saying? I think it's perfect, man. It looks like 2013, and it looks like the 14 jerseys mixed into one. It's the perfect combination.
D-Lou, I don't know if we want to ask D-Lou about the fashion part of things, guys. Maybe, VZ's definitely he's in that industry literally. Let's go to VZ first.
I need to see it with all the patches on it first. Like I need to see it with the ACC patch and the Scholar patches. I don't know. I feel like it's just missing one thing. That's it. I like it. I like that they simplified it a little bit. I just want to see it all together. That's it.
Yeah,
I do like it.
I get to see without the visors too, because I know they can't wear those visors. Everything looks better when you have those badass visors on there, but NCAA doesn't allow it. But I wanted to take the visors off. Let's see, but the uniforms they look good. They look fine. I wish there could be a little bit more of a garnet and more of a gold, more of a tan. You got
it doesn't look
that
as
light
busy,
garnet.
which is the main thing. Like I personally like the white jerseys that we're coming off of. The others, they definitely need to be improved upon. They cleaned it up. They're not as busy. It looks like Florida State again. They did what they needed to do.
I agree.
I just want to see it all together. That's it.
Out on the field.
Yeah.
I went into the locker room to change my collar shirt. I had my KWP collar shirt on. I wanted a regular T-shirt, and so Knowles was the white 55. I couldn't recognize the other 55, but he was like, hey, these are new jerseys. I'm like, those are compared to how I see them change, Vince went to Florida State. You know what I'm saying? He got the end of Bobby, and then we changed halfway through with Jimbo, the 2013 to 14. And so seeing them change again, but the kind of mix from the old tradition into the new is what I like. It's still simple. It still represents both. I do like the double hip patch because we haven't had it in a while. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I like it being a little bit more simple. And it's Florida State. You don't really need some flamboyant uniform. The logo kind of speaks for itself. And, I like the redesign, and even better, 12 different possible uniform combinations. So hopefully we'll get to see Mike Norvell continue to spice things up. Brought back the all whites last year on the road in Louisville. We'll see what they're able to dial up a little bit here in 2023. If there's anything new on the table,
I think there is.
I like that they kept the tribal pattern. I know a lot of the older fans don't like it, but you have the history of the tribe behind you, and that the fact that they went into designing it, I love it. I like that they kept it around in this redesign.
Yep, 100%.
I agree.
If it's approved by the tribe, it's approved by me.
There you go. Great.
I don't think they'd approve of you wearing all gray. Yeah.
This is blue. This is actually blue.
Oh, yeah. Well, Los, let's set you out of here because we kept you on here for an hour. But as always, it's a pleasure. I can't wait to be hanging out with you this weekend at Kenny Shaw's camp, which is always a great time. But
talk about that real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah. Dustin, me, Tommy, Los, Jameis. God, everybody's going to be there. Everybody, just like it was a couple years ago. It is really a family reunion more for you guys, and it's just awesome for Kenny to invite us to this and also be a sponsor, Noel Game Day sponsor. We're official sponsor, baby.
If you're going to be in Orlando and you want your kid to have an exceptional experience with guys that care about each other, and when I say that, it's like we haven't seen each other in years, like little kids, reunited. And they're gonna get the best coaching. They're gonna get an awesome experience, man. You just got to be there. You got to be there. Jones High School in Orlando. The first session, I believe, for the little kids starts at 9 to 11, and the second session starts at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3, I do believe. So if y'all are in town, please, y'all gotta come. Y'all gotta come through. It's gonna be amazing. A lot of coaches, guys are still playing in the league, guys are still coaching the college ball, former and current guys. It's gonna be a big time. So please come out.
We are looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah. So Los, we'll see you just in a few days. Safe travels to you.
Yes,
and everybody going down. But thank you for coming on here. Great insight as always. Miss having you on here. If you want more of Los, hit the like button. Maybe we'll use that. Hit the like button if you want some more of Los. And we don't have to really talk him into coming on, but he's a busy man. He's doing his thing, so it's a privilege to have a little bit of time with him. And you give great insight and you keep it real. And you also make sure you ask some good questions over here to everybody on here. Don't let us get stale or anything. You got to keep us.
I won't.
Keep us on our toes.
You guys popping, and then I keep.
No one's opinion is safe.
About something. Hey,
we just talked about Rodemaker. We had a whole segment on Rodemaker. That's never been done on here. I can promise you that. If Rodemaker could lead a 2013 national championship, I didn't think that would happen tonight. I was not expecting it, but Los, that's what the best part is about you. You never know what's going to come.
10 could have led us to the national championship. Sean McGuire, Mags, we'll
have a whole show. We'll have a whole show for that this offseason. We'll have a whole one Los. We'll get on maybe another guy too.
Let me ask you a question, Nate. I appreciate you guys for having me, man. It's always love. It's always a pleasure, man. Hey, VZ, next time you get some new dunks, man, send me some pictures, man. I know you got your shoe game. I know it's heating up.
I'll text you tomorrow.
All right. Hey, I appreciate you guys for having me. You guys have a good night.
Thanks, Los.
Y'all be good. Always a great time. Oops, can't even see me. Always a great time with Los. Never gets old. Never does get old. Love that man. He does a lot for us, and he's doing a great job too with training some of the kids around town. So, absolutely love that man.
Never a dull moment around Los.
Yeah. And there's nothing like getting a perspective from a guy who's actually done it, gone through the life, won a national championship at Florida State. I mean, he understands it down to the nitty gritty. So, I mean, just to be able to get that perspective from him, I think it really it takes everything to another level for us.
Well, let's start jumping through some things here, guys, because we are already an hour in, and there's a good amount of stuff to go through. So we're going to run through these smoothly. There might be some next couple of podcasts that we can go through and dive into a few more things that were listed on this list, but we've got quite a bit to go over. So let's start kicking some of this. Let's start off with Landen Thomas. We got to go there first. We'll go to the other commitments as well. This won't be chronological. We're going to go Landen Thomas. Florida State, Georgia, tight end, number 1. Tight end in the country, top 25 player in the 2024 class per 247 Sports rankings. Former FSU commit as well, but Chris Thomason gets his guy for next year. I know Thompson, damn it, Thompson. But yeah, boom, flip him. Kirby Smart, stuff him into a locker is what it is. But man, this 2024 class as a whole is huge. But let's specifically talk about Landen Thomas, D-Lou. Big Monday for Florida State.
Huge moves on the recruiting trail for FSU, pulling off the flip of 5-star tight end Landen Thomas, who, like Logan noted, had previously been committed to the back-to-back national champions, Georgia Bulldogs. Also a guy who is from the state of Georgia, only up there in Colquitt County. So, I mean, not too far from Tallahassee. But, I mean, we're talking about a guy who was in the Peach State, who was committed to Georgia, who was someone that Georgia wanted. And Florida State went right in there and stole them from under their nose and pulled off this massive flip. I believe compositely on 247, Thomas, if he goes through this process, ends up signing with Florida State in December. He would be the highest ranked player that Mike Norvell has ever landed so far in his tenure at Florida State. So, I mean, we'll see how this continues to play out. But, man, absolutely huge for FSU, building some serious momentum here in the spring. Thomas, like you said, Logan, the number 1 tight end in that 2024 class, and a guy who could potentially come in and make an impact as soon as his true freshman year. I mean, this is a guy who's been extremely productive at the high school level, contributing all over the field during his prep career. And I mean, really, kind of a unique case for Florida State, being someone that grew up a fan of FSU, who committed to Florida State in this Tribe 24 class very early on back in 2021. Florida State got off to that 0-4 start in the 2021 season, everyone remembers. And then Landen Thomas actually ended up decommitting shortly after that in October of that year. But I mean, to get him back into the fold, and, obviously you've got to believe a guy like Cam Davis, who was committed during that time when Thomas has been going after him throughout this whole time, and especially turned up the heat over the last couple of months, along with Luke Kromenhoek, who we've talked about has really developed into a bell cow for this 2024 class. So I think just with Florida State continuing to make Thomas a priority, showing that progress on the field, having commitments come after him just as much as coaches. I mean, all of those efforts really paid off here, along with Thomas growing up a fan of Florida State. So, I mean, to get him in, now be back up to a top 5 class in the country. And I mean, man, it looks like more good news could be coming down the pipe here in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months for Florida State on the recruiting trail. They're making a lot of traction with top players in the country on both sides of the ball, and quickly filling up here. We'll get to these blue chip wide receivers, but right now, approaching the end of April, I think you've really got to like where Florida State sits on the recruiting trail, not only with what they have in the fold, but like I said, with what they have coming up, because they're primed for a strong summer as well.
If this commitment sticks, I'm just considering this payback for Isaac Nauta, who was committed to Florida State for a long time and then flipped to Georgia. That's
a while ago.
That's the last time I cared about recruiting, to be honest with you. If this sticks, it's just payback for that. That's why I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's a tight end factory, so to go in there and grab him back into the fold for Florida State is gigantic. And like you were just saying, Dustin, 2 wide receiver commits. I think this says a lot about the future at the quarterback position with Luke Kromenhoek, who we had on our show last month. These guys believe in Luke. These guys like Luke. And, he's doing a good job recruiting, but you can do that and have all the talk. But I think they look at Luke and they think, wow, I think that guy can help score me some touchdowns. But yeah, Florida State also with Landen Thomas. Busy week, man. I mean, even before the spring game, these happened. And then on the spring game, but BJ Gibson, along with Lewayne McCoy specifically from Miami, and then BJ Gibson. I think a lot of guys, or at least everybody on Twitter, got to see some of his highlights, one-handed grabs, but from Georgia. They're building up this offense, and I think just talk about those two, D-Lou, and then I got another question after that.
Yeah, I would say just first off, I mean, man, the number of blue chip wide receivers that have already jumped into the fold for Florida State. You're talking about 11 verbal commitments so far. 4 of these guys are 4-star wide receivers. You've got BJ Gibson, you've got Lewayne McCoy, and then we've also got TJ Abrams, who committed back in January, along with Camden Fryer, the legacy 4-star commitment, and Here the Spirit alum in the fold as well. So, I mean, that's 4 really quality guys. And Florida State, I mean, they might not be done. There's still some other names to know on the board. James Madison supposed to be coming for an official visit in the summer. Joshua Trader was on campus for an unofficial visit, a 5-star prospect that Florida State has been pushing for us. I mean, they might not be done at that wide receiver position. But, yeah, just talking about Lewayne McCoy first, specifically, like you said, a guy from down there in South Florida chose FSU over Miami. And, I mean, this is an interesting one because a lot of whispers had been kind of going in Miami's favor. Then he showed up for an unofficial visit on Thursday for Florida State's final practice prior to the spring showcase, walked out of the Moore and committed to Florida State as he was wrapping up that visit and preparing to head home. So a big win for FSU, especially over rival Miami. And, you're talking about a guy who averaged nearly 25 yards per catch as a junior for Miami Central, a powerhouse down there in South Florida that ended up winning a state championship last season. And McCoy, Logan, I don't know if we can show the clip on here, but just someone with freakish ability to go up and get the football. I mean, an absolutely crazy one-handed catch at a recent 7-on-7 tournament that had some people calling it the best catch they'd ever filmed, the best catch they'd ever seen in their life. I mean, you're bringing a real playmaker in at wide receiver in Lewayne McCoy. And then BJ Gibson, out of the state of Georgia, another guy from the Peach State. He was committed to Tennessee before decommitting back in January, but FSU wins this one out over the Volunteers, as well as Stanford and Auburn, who he recently visited. He said on Saturday that he is planning on taking an official to Stanford, but he's firmly committed to Florida State at this time, like another blue chip wide receiver, which I've said a couple times, but someone who is going to be a two-sport athlete for Florida State, expected to play football and baseball at the next level. So that's now 3 guys in that 2024 class who are going to be two-sport athletes. Cam Davis, Camden Fryer also going to be playing football and baseball at Florida State. And then we'll see TJ Abrams might run track. So, FSU bringing in guys that can contribute in a variety of facets for the athletic programs. But, just 3 really quality prospects in a short span of time for Florida State to continue bulking up that 2024 class. And, there's still some really good offensive and defensive linemen on the board who Florida State's in very good standing for. But right now, really building out those skill positions. And with the 4 wide receivers, having Cam Davis, having Luke Kromenhoek, having Landen Thomas, a very good start for FSU on offense in that cycle.
Yeah, this is nasty from McCoy.
It's a disgusting catch. Filthy.
Silly. Silliness.
Oh.
I just love. You just got to watch the feet too, man. He takes care of the feet.
I think he got both in.
Yeah,
and arguably one of the biggest wins of the weekend wasn't even commitments, but locking down Kromenhoek and Cam Davis, who announced they're not going to be there, that they're shutting down their recruitments, especially coming off the Penn State visit. I think that was just as big as anything.
And did we say that both those guys are from the state of Georgia as well? We're starting to see a common theme here. Florida State going into the Peach State to pluck some talent right from the Bulldogs. Let's look at it. Like I said, 11 verbal commitments, now a top 5 class in the country. 6 of these guys are from Florida. The other 5 are all from Georgia. So, you're really seeing Florida State kind of focus on the recruiting stronghold here, not only in the Sunshine State, but just across, really the state line of the Peach State, putting a really big focus on keeping these talented guys close to home, close to Tallahassee. And, compared to last year, Florida State, they landed 11 prospects in the state of Florida, but only 1 out of Georgia. So you're really starting to see that emphasis pay off. And a guy like Alex Atkins has been huge for Florida State up there.
Yeah, those 2 locking it down, massive. And I think we all, having us have a good relationship with Luke and having him on the show, you can get the feel, this was a guy that would want to lock down things early. And I was like, well, if Luke's doing it, I wouldn't be shocked to see Cam do it as well. But just to have that going into the spring game where you're going to put a lot of recruiting efforts for both those guys being bell cows to talk to some of these players coming in from across the country to show this is why we're locked. This is what we believe in with Mike Norvell. It just translates a ton, but there's just different levels to watch where Mike Norvell is going into Georgia right now and doing some things against Kirby.
And to your point, go ahead.
I was just going to say you just see growth in a lot of different areas.
I was just saying, to your point about having Kromenhoek and Davis lock it down and really show how committed they are to Florida State during that weekend. BJ Gibson, who committed after the spring showcase, and Landen Thomas, who committed on Monday, were both there during that time period when both those guys chose to do that, along with a ton of other guys. Someone like Jason Zandamela, a 4-star offensive lineman who's one of Florida State's top targets on the board. You had John Daniels there as well. So, just having all these prospects in there, seeing this from Florida State's top commits, I think it says a lot.
Let's jump into anything recruiting-wise. I know, I'm just trying to get through some things, so then this isn't a 3-hour show.
Those are the big ones.
Okay, because I know we'll have next week's show too, which will add on quite a bit. But let's talk about some transfer portal stuff, some attrition happening. Let's start off with Los kind of bringing up Brendan Gant, who I think, entering the transfer portal, veteran guy, was a kind of a pivotal depth piece last year. And I thought when added into the game, had to go in and was relied on, I thought he played pretty damn well and also was huge in special teams. But one player that had some position changes throughout his career, decided to stick with Florida State, was focused. I just can't talk highly enough about Brendan Gant. There's a reason why he's getting a ton of opportunities elsewhere, but pulling for him. But along with Brendan Gant entering the transfer portal, Steven Dix and Ontavious Woody, redshirt freshman defensive tackle, which is utterly disappointing to me. Very high on Woody. I guess you could say had the position change to deal with, yada, yada, yada. But I specifically really liked him at defensive tackle. I don't know if that had anything to do with it here, if he wanted to go back to offensive line. But I thought a lot. I thought he, out of that defensive tackle room, I thought he has the strongest potential, but there's other things that he had to work on, and talked about it numerous times on here. There was things that he would have to do, and let's just be honest, he had to be willing to be coached. And he had to be willing to be coached hard. That's just the kind of player he was. It just stinks he's not going to give himself a chance here at Florida State. But Gant, Dix, Woody, Steven Dix too. I mean, you talk about Dix, he's a guy that didn't get to see the field last year because of injury. His freshman year was his best year statistically, but now Florida State's starting to grow thin here at the linebacker position, and I'm seeing arguments of, no, you don't need to go after a linebacker in the portal. Yes, you do. I'm on the pro. Yeah, you need to add some experience in this room. In my opinion, just if you deal with an injury or two, you're relying on a lot of guys with not game time experience. It's just straight up. That's how it is. But anyways, these three guys are in the transfer portal. Thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Yeah, I guess I'll just start off with Brendan Gant. I think this could end up being a really underrated loss for Florida State, because we talked about it, prior to the spring and this offseason, but FSU was primed to bring back their top 4 linebackers from last season. Tatum Bethune, Deloach, DJ Lundy, and Brendan Gant made up that unit. I mean, it was going to be Florida State's most experienced linebacker unit in years. And it's still a lot of experience there, but just to lose someone like Brendan Gant, who's been with the program, he was going into his 5th year, like Logan said, made the position change and really kind of retooled himself a little bit to make that move from safety to linebacker and, stick with Florida State in a day and age where we're seeing guys hit the transfer portal like flies. I mean, that thing's already started to fill up again with the spring portal window opening up on Saturday. I mean, already hundreds of players back in the portal. But, I mean, this was a guy who stuck with FSU despite signing under former head coach Willie Taggart, stayed through the transition, stayed through the tough times, and really, in my opinion, turned around his career in Tallahassee and how people will think about Brendan Gant in a Florida State uniform. Like you said, pivotal on special teams, ended up being co-special teams player of the year last year along with Wyatt Rector. And I think you've just got to be, he showed a lot during his time at Florida State, and definitely going to be someone who's coveted on that transfer market and going to end up in a good landing spot. And, Steven Dix Jr. just kind of passed up here because of the injuries. Unfortunately, it gave a guy like Omar Graham Jr. some time to cement himself last fall, and it's really ramped it up a notch this spring, showed some impressive signs. So I think that was just kind of, a sign of guys moving up the depth chart. And DeMarco Ward, true freshman early enrollee, has showed some really impressive signs during the spring as well. So, I mean, entering, I think, 2 years left of college eligibility for him. So probably someone that's going to go look for more consistent playing time elsewhere, an established role. And as for Woody, I mean, that one's a little bit, I don't want to say a shocker, but just a little bit of a surprise. I didn't think he'd be the one necessarily to leave in that defensive tackle room. He just switched over to the defensive side of the ball during the 2022 regular season after coming into Florida State as an offensive lineman. And like you said, Logan, showed some real potential. Very physical at the point of attack. I mean, you don't have to worry about physicality or violence when it comes to Woody. It was more about trying to get him to slow down the motor at times and, refining that technique as a defensive lineman, which, he was probably going to do under Coach Odell if he would have stuck it out for a couple more years. We've seen how guys have been produced in and out of that room during his time at Florida State. But like I said, I mean, it's a transfer portal day and age. Sometimes when guys don't want to play, it's time to look elsewhere for an opportunity. And, it's unfortunate that had to happen with Woody. But at the same time, I mean, FSU, I think there's still 9 scholarship defensive tackles remaining. That's an extremely deep room with a ton of guys in it. So it's hard to fault someone who wants to go play maybe earlier in their career, because it would have been an uphill battle for Woody to get playing time again at Florida State in 2023.
Yeah, I don't think the Woody loss hurts at all for this season, but definitely hurts for the future going forward in that room. Losing 2 linebackers, especially 2 experienced ones, is tough. I think we were all kind of expecting at least one to go. Just there's a lot of veteran talent in that room, and you're only playing 2 guys at a time, really. There just wasn't enough spots. we expected one to go. I think Steven Dix Jr. made a lot of sense. Seeing Gant go kind of sucks. We've already mentioned it a couple of times, just how impactful he was on special teams alone. That's gonna be tough to replicate. Really, really tough to replicate. We know Norvell places an emphasis on that. That's gonna be hard for them to replicate. And hopefully, an Omar Graham can step up and be that, or a DeMarco Ward, one of these freshmen. I agree, Logan. I think they got to go out and get a guy in the room that just has some experience playing at a D1 level.
Yeah, because if one of those get injured, I mean, we didn't see Tatum Bethune at the spring showcase, but let's say someone gets injured, God forbid, two. This is a physical unit that you're playing at, a linebacker, something like that. You're relying heavily on Omar Graham Jr. And I think we see the signs, Dustin. We saw it really in bowl game prep too, which was huge for a lot of the younger guys in the 3 deep. But specifically, Omar, he's going to be relied on quite heavily, and I think they believe in them. But Ward still needs to be developed and also add size, in my opinion. I think Adam Fuller told us after the showcase. Like, you got to allow some guys to develop, like Omar Graham Jr. But luckily, you feel like you're pretty comfortable after year one with him redshirting to go ahead and put him out there, and he got a little bit of playing time in 2022. But I think you do need to find someone with some experience to add in that room. And Steven Dix was probably the number one guy that I thought would have the highest potential to enter that transfer portal and find an opportunity better for him to see more playing time. You weren't going to see much if you're Steven Dix. Omar, that's fine, younger player going into it, but Steven Dix has been around this program for a while. I thought he looked pretty smooth, looked fine in the spring showcase too. So go get an opportunity. And that's what these guys are doing. I think Brendan Gant also should be in that same boat. I give a lot of respect to that guy who stuck around and dealt with position changes and got thrown into some fires and, stuck around with this program and played well. I thought he played really well. He was one of Florida State's best sub guys going into the games this last season. So wishing him all the best, all these guys. And, for what it is what it is. It stinks. I think it's more than, playing time. That's just not what's going to happen right away for him. Like you were saying, Dustin, this room is stacked. There's just other things that, mental stuff. And I don't know if I thought things were getting better on that side, but we don't know what happens behind closed doors. So we don't know it all sometimes, which is a shocker, I know. But yeah, it's just disappointing part of things, and that's just how it goes.
And now with the linebackers, like you guys said, could potentially look to the NCAA transfer portal for help here after losing two guys. And I really think the question that Florida State's coaching staff needs to figure out is, do they think Omar Graham Jr. can play on a national championship contender? Because that's essentially what Florida State wants to be as you move into this 2023 season. Like I said, you had 4, now you've got 3 established guys, and you're trying to see if Omar Graham can step up and be that 4th member of the rotation. But I think you've got to ask, a redshirt freshman who hasn't seen much game experience to this point, but has flashed in practice, is he ready to take that step and be a contributor in a rotation that, like I said, is competing for an ACC championship, a playoff spot, a national championship? That's what's on Florida State's mind in 2023. It's no longer about developing. It's about going out and getting it. So, I mean, we're going to see. I'm sure they're evaluating all options, but then also when you think about the transfer portal route, you've got to think that Florida State has 3 established linebackers that have already been, at least, Bethune only been here for 1 year, but Deloach and Lundy have both been here for multiple years, and those guys have established their roles. I don't think you're bringing in someone from the transfer portal that's going to unseat Tatum Bethune or Kalen Deloach from a starting job. So then again, you might have to rethink your options, because not every player in the transfer portal is going to want to come to a spot where they're going to have to compete for a starting job or compete to get into the rotation. So, I mean, there's just a lot of factors when it goes into something like this.
And Deal, you know better off the top of your head, what's the scholarship count looking right now? Because I know they were over there for a little bit, but how's it looking now with 3 guys out?
And I mean, technically 4 with McClendon moving on. So I think right now you're in the range of that 85. It should be only 1 or 2 off.
You're going to have OL is going to have 2 to 3. That shouldn't. I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. I mean, there's still meetings going on, but yeah, OL I think is going to take a 2 to 3, trim it down a little bit more, in my opinion. There's just too many bodies, and I think there's also some guys too that should see playing time that just isn't going to happen with some of the transfers coming in. That's just the case. I don't want to name some names or whatever. That might be yada, yada, yada. But if you're in our Discord, we try to give some good insights on that. But
yeah, I think there are some feasible names that could end up entering the transfer portal, exploring their options elsewhere. But I mean, we're just going to have to see it play out, because I don't think Florida State is necessarily, trying to get a bunch of people to transfer when they're not too far off this 85-man limit. There's not going to be, I would imagine they're not going to add like 5 guys during this spring transfer portal window. They're looking for a guy, 2 guys, maybe 3 max. Because when you look at the roster, I mean, where do you guys think Florida State necessarily needs help coming out of the spring? Now you're a little bit thin at linebacker. I think you could argue to explore the transfer portal. I mean, it's not even an argument. You need to look at the transfer portal for potential help off the edge with McClendon moving on, some maybe worries and the experience that you're lacking now behind Jared Verse and Patrick Payton. And I mean, if one of those guys were going to go down, you're relying on someone. I mean, Gilbert Edmond does have legitimate SEC experience, but someone like Byron Turner is another guy, like Omar Graham Jr., where we're seeing those flashes in practice, but is it going to elevate when it comes to game time in 2023? I mean, that's something that we're going to find out in the moment. And then I think the same thing, you can argue that Florida State should maybe see if there's any safeties in the portal that would fit what they're trying to do. So, I mean, those are really, when I'm thinking about Florida State's roster right now, those are the 3 position groups where I think feasibly there could be an addition.
Yeah, you nailed it. I was about to say those 3 and then maybe cornerback, but I think you like what you have there.
Yeah, and I mean, there's just so many guys in that cornerback room.
Yeah, I could maybe see them exploring just a veteran option there, but I agree. I think safety and linebacker especially, and then if there's a quality edge in the portal that wants to be a rotational piece, you bring them in, but definitely safety and linebacker.
It's a one thing about Florida State and what Mike Norvell has been able to do along with his assistant coaches is be successful in the transfer portal. So if we're being pretty relaxed with this conversation, but Florida State, if they're going to make a run here, they've got to make some moves, a couple more before this 2023 season gets kicked off. But yeah, definitely starting to see that. We'll see some more attrition very soon.
Yeah.
Anything else football wise, guys? Because there is a handful of things that we do need to go over on the basketball side. Like I said, this was a jam-packed episode because we didn't have our instant reaction to the spring game, and Los always kills it with his goodies. But anything football wise that we are missing? There's probably like 5 other things, but this week those had to be kind of cut off. The fat had to be cut off. We had to go for the best part of the steak. I think we're good. I think we're set. Let's jump into some basketball to finish off this show this week. VZ, this was a busy one between new staff hires, commitments, attrition.
I will argue everything that's happened in the last week has been good. We've made some progress.
I like hearing that.
I'm not in the depressed state I was last week when I wanted to beat my head against the wall behind me. Where should we start? Should we start with the attrition and then work our way back?
Yeah, let's go backwards. Let's go with Naheem McLeod entering the transfer portal.
Thank God, man. It needed to happen. This is a true story. He enters the transfer portal today, and I'm talking with my mom, and I go, "Hey, Mom, our worst player just entered the portal finally." And she goes, "Oh, the tall, clueless guy." That's a true story. He was not good. It needed to happen. He played more than he should have. It's crazy how in 8 months we were excited about him getting that extra eligibility that I reported before the season. 8 months later, we're like, "Oh my God, took him long enough."
Did he do something to you?
No, I don't know if I've ever had an actual conversation with him. It just needed to happen. It was one of those guys. He wasn't a good culture fit. He wasn't a good scheme fit for what they want to do now with switching everything. He's got good feet for someone that's 7'4", but they need someone quicker, and they need someone smarter and better, and just not Naheem McLeod.
And the thing with Naheem is he just never really turned into that dominant defender that you would think someone that's 7'4" would be. I mean, only averaged 0.8 blocks per game last year, which, when you're 7'4", not the greatest numbers, and also hasn't been able to stay healthy through majority of his time at Florida State. I think it was last year that he suffered the broken hand. Before that, there were some eligibility issues, and he started his career off in JUCO. I remember it's been a couple of years now whenever Florida State was putting together that class with Naheem McLeod and Matthew Cleveland and all those high profile recruits. I remember, Logan, was it you that made that hype video on our Twitter? I mean, there was so much hype behind this class, and just to see what they've done since is pretty disappointing for Florida State. For Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, but a class that came in top 10, even better.
I think it was top 3 off the top. Yeah. They may end up being top 5, but I think after the early signing period, they were top 3. Crazy amount of talent. Matthew, or at least on paper, Matthew Cleveland was a 5-star, gone. Jalen Worley was a borderline 5-star, depending on where you looked. It hasn't lived up to the hype, but it looks like he's sticking around for another season in Tallahassee so far. We'll see what ends up happening. John Butler, one and done, unexplainably. And then Naheem McLeod had like 2 good moments in 30-something games. He had the 7 offensive rebounds against Duke last season at home in Tallahassee, and that upset win. And then just out of nowhere against Syracuse this season, he had 16, 8, and 3. I think 13 came in the first half. Other than that, he can't move on fast enough.
Exactly. Yep. That's tough. But you gotta have attrition. This is what's going on. But outside of Naheem McLeod, which way do you want to go now? Basketball commits and then to the new staff hire?
Yes. Well, no. Go ahead. Should we talk about the hire first?
I was gonna say do Barsh to Gonzaga, and then you can go into the hire, and then we can.
Yes. So it'd been rumored since, I would say, early last week, maybe the end of the week before, that RJ Barsh was leaving for a new job, and I'd even heard that from a recruit actually, that they may be needing a new coach. Did some digging around and found out it was going to be RJ Barsh going back to his home state of Washington. I know he spent some time at Tacoma High School. I could not blame the guy whatsoever. I get he's only been in Tallahassee 1 season, but you get a chance to go back home, quote unquote, to one of the premier programs in the country. You get more job security, because who knows what's going to happen with Florida State and this staff going forward if they have another season like last year. You get more job security at a premier program, go do it. I do not blame him one bit. It's a great fit for him. I really wish the best for him, but at the same time, I think Florida State kind of upgraded a little bit. We'll get to that in a second. I'm sad to see Barsh go. I think he's a really, really talented coach. He's very highly regarded in coaching circles, but I can't blame him. I really can't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing probably was the job security, because you're really coming into this 2023-2024 season with, really only thinking about that year. Whereas when you go to Gonzaga, I know his name's Mark Few, but he's going to be there for many more years. So I think Barsh really parlayed this well into a spot where he can continue to build his young coaching career with a team that's going to be, if not the NCAA, if not competing for national championships every year, in the NCAA tournament every year.
Yes, and I know some people don't really follow college basketball. Since 2016, Gonzaga's been a 1 seed 4 times. I get they haven't won a championship. They've gotten to the championship game a couple times and just haven't gotten that final win. But this is one of the premier programs in college basketball. They're consistently putting guys in the pros. They're consistently winning games. I get they're in a lesser conference, but they're still one of the best programs in college basketball. You can't blame a guy for doing that for a program that's been good for almost a decade now.
And honestly, Austin, you just taught me that Gonzaga was in Washington. I didn't really know where it was before.
Oh, really? Yeah, they're in Spokane.
For some reason, I imagined Arizona.
No, they're in Spokane, Washington.
Yeah, I know. I think everybody's like that. Gonzaga, you just like kind of imagine it on your own. Everybody's got their own guesses. I was thinking Northeast somewhere. We're all over the place. Did not know that's where Gonzaga is.
If you at least follow college basketball a little bit, they're in the West Coast Conference, so you could have made a guess somewhere around there. Just, the California, Oregon, Washington region. Northeast would have been a bad guess.
Arizona.
Yeah, like that's fair. That's reasonable.
So now getting where are we at with this? We are talking about.
So the replacement for Barsh is Georgetown assistant Kevin Nickelberry, a name you'll hear in a couple seconds as we talk about someone else. Very experienced coach. Before Georgetown, he replaced Will Wade at LSU as an interim coach there. Did a great job there as an assistant. Was a head coach at Howard. Was a head coach somewhere else. I forgot it off the top of my head. He's been an assistant at Clemson. He's been just about everywhere. Very highly regarded recruiter. Kind of has a reputation just bounce around a lot, but he's a very, very well-respected assistant. Like I said, I think Florida State kind of upgraded a little bit, especially on the recruiting level. We'll see how much of an impact he can make in the season, because that may be all he gets in Tallahassee.
Drop bags.
Something like that.
It's from LSU.
Which I'm not convicting anyone of anything, but how he was the recruiting coordinator at LSU under Will Wade. How Will Wade gets caught up and Nickelberry hasn't, I don't know. I'm not complaining. I think he's very talented. Couple things to keep an eye on. He was obviously an assistant at Georgetown with a guy that they're heavily recruiting in the transfer portal, Primo Spears. They're hosting him on a visit April 27th. He's visiting Kansas just before on the 25th, and then he's announcing on the 29th. So Florida State gets that last visit if he doesn't end up, canceling like Aaron Estrada did.
That's what I was going to say.
But that's going to be important. You already have a relationship there, even though Georgetown fans have kind of said him and Spears don't exactly have the great relationship. We'll see if that ends up happening. But another one to keep an eye on is Marvel Allen, who's signed to Georgetown. But if he asks out of his NLI, apparently Nickelberry was the lead recruiter on him, was recruited him at LSU, and he was at LSU leading for a long time, and then ended up signing to Georgetown. That's one I'm keeping an eye on, especially because he's in the neighborhood. He goes to Montverde Academy. So obviously
familiar spot. Yeah.
Very familiar. Florida State's got a couple players from there, like Scotty Barnes. That's definitely one I'm keeping an eye on moving forward.
And Kamaji.
Sweet.
Is it weird that I got that fact in my head somehow?
I was going to say it. I just, Scotty's a great example. And then I guess moving to the commits, another Nickelberry. They get Josh Nickelberry, a guard from LaSalle, 40% three-point shooter. Doesn't move the needle for you a ton, but it gives something Florida State didn't have last year, and that's three-point shooting off the bench. They had Chandler Jackson, who shot 37% from three on one shot per game. Then the next closest was Bob Miller at 25%. That was your three-point shooting off the bench last season. I feel like worst case with Nickelberry, he's playing 10 to 14 minutes a game, gives you a couple threes a game. And, Florida State needs that. And I think on a smaller note, he was the captain of LaSalle's team last year. Should give you some leadership, which Florida State definitely needed. We've talked about that a lot this offseason. And then kind of the surprise one, Jameer Watkins, forward from VCU. Not the forward from VCU everyone was kind of expecting, but a good, versatile defensive player, averaged almost 2 steals and blocks per game last season. Capable of hitting the three at 34%, but just a long, rangy athlete that can defend multiple positions. Again, something Florida State desperately needed. It may not look like huge moves because you're looking at going, you're losing Matthew Cleveland, you're losing Caleb Mills, guys that combined to average, off the top of my head, I think 28 points per game last year, and you're replacing them with guys that averaged, 18 points per game in the Atlantic 10 conference. I get it's a little bit different, but these are going to be moves that help in the fringes, build up the depth at the bottom of the roster, and then if you land a guy like Primo Spears, now that roster is looking a lot better moving forward for next season, but we'll see what ends up happening.
I guess one thing that's blowing my mind is Josh Nickelberry and Kevin Nickelberry have the same last name. Are they related?
I believe they're uncle and nephew. I believe.
Wait, so you don't know?
I've seen it. I'm waiting for it to be confirmed, but they are related in some fashion.
These are the things we need to know on Here the Spear. This is what we need to know.
It's been a busy weekend. Of course, like all this news came out in the 30 seconds in like the 3 hours I was unavailable. We'd had a lot of drafts ready. I didn't have anything ready for Watkins. I was a little unprepared for that one. He kind of visited unannounced for the most part. We kind of knew Nickelberry was coming in. It was supposed to be him, and then maybe Aaron Estrada shows up, and then Jameer Watkins shows up and commits. Don't expect the other VCU forward, by the way. I'll just leave that.
Yeah, it seems like that one went by the wayside, but either way, a couple good pickups for Florida State, like you said, to kind of fill in some of the gaps from last year. It seems like Nickelberry can really help out on the offensive side of the ball, and Watkins is going to be very versatile for Florida State defensively. And to go ahead and fill out your staff, get Kevin Nickelberry in the fold, someone who it seems like Leonard Hamilton is very familiar with through the coaching circles. And like you said, someone who's highly thought of, a recruiter who can help get some talent to Tallahassee, which is needed at this point, especially with how everything's going in the transfer portal. So we'll see how it goes here from Florida State. But I think a good foundation so far at the end of April. Obviously FSU's not done in the transfer portal. And like you said, maybe keep an eye out for one more high school edition if that guy from Georgetown is out of his letter of intent.
Yeah, there's a couple other guys that I'm kind of keeping an eye on to see if they enter the transfer portal from Florida State. We still have, a little over 3 weeks left of the transfer window for basketball. I think the deadline is May 11th. There's still some time for a guy to depart that didn't see much playing time last season. I'm not going to name any names. And if Florida State's still going after people, that you'd expect someone to leave, because right now they're sitting at that 13 limit of scholarships. We'll see if someone else departs. And I think it's likely that at least one more guy leaves. I wouldn't be surprised if it's two. Just they can, like I said, fill at the bottom of that roster. Next season's team isn't going to be a team that beats you 1 through 5. It's going to be kind of that like 2018 kind of team that if everything's clicking right, they're beating you 1 through 11, 1 through 12.
True. That's good. I'm liking this. We got football. We got basketball stuff to talk about. It's been a busy week.
Busy.
What an episode. What an episode. I mean, like I said,
but now spring camp is over. But now spring camp's over and we don't get to watch another practice till August.
I know that does stink. Definitely when a team is going good. Dustin, what was that? Yeah, 2021. We looked at each other like, oh, this is going to be a nice break. Don't miss practice as much. But after 2022, you're like fiending to get back out there for a practice, or a game or anything. Just to be back in Doak felt great. The energy was awesome. And got to hang out with Brian Stork from our show, Calculated Chaos. Had a lot of people coming up saying they listened to the show and everything. That was awesome. But just good to be around the family and everything. It was a fun weekend. And now we got to wait. We got to wait a little while. Luckily down here in Tampa, the Bucs have NFL, a little bit more of off-season stuff going on with NFL draft coming up next weekend. And we got some rookie minicamp and stuff like that. Yep. So we got some good Bucs stuff to cover. So if you guys are Bucs fans, follow us. Bucs Game Day. Yeah. Busy.
2 more podcasts and we're talking about Jamie Robinson getting drafted.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll get to predict. Maybe we could do some predictions on round and maybe team. That'd be fun. That man's getting a lot of visit invites as he deserves. I think he does a really good job in person. But I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode. It was fun. Appreciate, shout out to our guy, Karlos, Los, family to us, and looking forward to hang out with him. We'll be down in Orlando this weekend. Noel Game Day is sponsoring Kenny Shaw's Raw Camp for the kids. Excited to be back there. Jameis Winston, James Wilder.
It's a very long list of people.
Nick O'Leary's on there. Ton of names.
Yeah.
Ton of Florida State alumni, but you've also got, I think, some UF alumni, some Miami alumni, some other guys as well. I mean, really just a whole crop of former athletes coming out to, give back to the community. And I think you really got to give a lot of props for Kenny. 2021 was awesome, but it really seems like they've made even more strides. They've got even more coaches coming out there, and it's going to be even better this time around. So, I mean, when you've got these athletes like this who are so great at what they do, and then to have this mentality to give back, I think it really says a lot for them trying to impact the younger people in the community.
And I'm just saying, Logan, now's that chance for you to put that picture from the spring game 2 years ago of me, you, and Los to bed, where you're like 4 inches shorter than all of us.
Okay, now Brian Stork is way taller in person. I thought.
I'm just saying, compared to me and Los, you looked short in that picture. Now's a chance for you to make up for that.
My computer's just not working right, but I'm able to share a few of the names though from Kenny Shaw's camp. We got Jameis Winston, Ike Taylor, which I'm super excited for, being a Steelers fan. Sign me up. I got to get a picture with Ike. William Floyd, he's in our intro for Hear the Spear. Rashad Green, one of the best to do it ever. The wide receiver room at Florida State. Terrence Brooks, Dexter Jackson, Derek Brooks. This is ridiculous. Devontae Freeman. That's just one of the posts there. It's going to be a phenomenal time. Greg Reed, James Wilder Jr., Lonnie Pryor, Chad Abram.
Sure, Freddie's going to be out there.
Oh, yeah. Chad Mevity.
Ebo said he's going to be out there. Youngest councilman in Claremont. Let's put that on the podcast.
Yeah, Roberto Aguayo, here the Spear alum. Nick O'Leary, like we talked about earlier. Sean McGuire. This is ridiculous. And then I'm not naming a lot of guys I went to other schools too will be here. Some playing the league, also trainers, beyond staff.
There's former NBA players like Chucky Atkins is going to be there, which is like it's the craziest thing.
Not sure.
Honestly,
I'm gonna look it up.
I haven't seen anything like this. I really haven't.
Mike Sims Walker, who played at UCF and that's a Jacksonville Jaguars legend, if you ask me. Mike Sims Walker.
Yeah. You've got UFC guys coming in here, number 2 light heavyweight contender. Like, what's going on here, Kenny? It just goes to show Kenny as a person. You know, he takes a lot of time out for us and comes on our show. So super excited to support him. Go down there, sponsoring that. Going to spend a lot of time with some of the former Noles, et cetera, et cetera. So appreciate everybody hanging out with us this evening too. Would love it if you guys hit the like button. This was a really fun show, recapping and finishing off the spring showcase weekend, which ended up being a massive one for Mike Norvell and Florida State heading into the 2023 summer offseason. Make sure you're tuned into our Discord, as that's absolutely rocking right now. Make sure you're subscribed here so then you get notified every time we release a new episode. Appreciate all of y'all. Spring is over, and we will talk to you guys next week on Wednesday at 8 p.m. See you guys.
Mama told me not to say a word. 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me not to say a word. 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me not to say a word.